generally influenced by the qualities of ignorance and passion.
My dear Lord, we belong to the Daitya or demon category. The demons are demoniac persons, the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, the Charanas, the Yakshas, the Rakshasas, the Pishasas, the ghosts and the hobgoblins are by nature incapable of worshipping you or becoming your devotees. Instead of becoming your devotees, they are simply impediments on the path of devotion. But you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, representing all the Vedas and are situated in the mode of uncontaminated goodness. Your position is always transcendental. For this reason, some of us, although born of the modes of passion and ignorance, have taken shelter of your lotus feet and have become devotees. Some of us are actually pure devotees, and some of us have taken shelter of your lotus feet because we desire to gain something from devotion.
By your causeless mercy only are we demons in direct contact with your personality. This contact is not possible even for the great demigods. No one knows how you act through your Yogamaya potency. Even demigods cannot calculate the expanse of the activities of your internal potency. So how is it possible for us to know it? I therefore place my humble prayers before you. Please be kind to me who am fully surrendered unto you, and favor me with your causeless mercy, so that I may simply remember your lotus feet birth after birth. My only ambition is that I may live alone just like the Paramahamsas, who travel alone here, and there in great peace of mind, depending simply upon your lotus feet. I also desire that if I have to associate with anyone, I may associate only with your pure devotees and no one else, for your pure devotees are always well-wishers of all living entities.
Mataji, slowly, clearly, loudly.
My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Master and Director of the whole world. Please therefore engage me in your service and let me thus become free from all material contaminations. You can purify me in that way because if someone engages himself in the loving service of your Lordship, he is immediately freed from all kinds of regulative principles enjoined in the Vedas. The word Paramhamsa mentioned here means the supreme swan. It is said that swan can draw milk from a mixture of milk and water. It can take only the milk portion and reject the watery portion. Similarly, a person who can draw out the spiritual portion from the material world and who can live alone, depending only on the Supreme Spirit, not on the material world, is called a Paramhamsa. When one achieves the Paramhamsa platform, he is no longer under the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions. A Paramhamsa accepts only the association of pure devotees and rejects others who are too much materially addicted. In other words, those who are materially addicted cannot understand the value of the Paramhamsa, but those who are fortunate, who are advanced in a spiritual sense, take shelter of the Paramhamsa and successfully complete the mission of human life.
Thank you. After Lord Krishna heard the prayers of Bali Maharaj, he spoke as follows: My dear king of the demons, in the millennium of Swayambhuva Manu, the Prajapati known as Marichi begot 6 sons, all demigods, in the womb of his wife Urna. Once upon a time, Lord Brahma became captivated by the beauty of his daughter and was followed her, impelled by sex desire. At that time, these 6 demigods looked at the action of Lord Brahma with abhorrence. This criticism of Brahma's action by the demigods constituted a great offense on their part, and for this reason they were condemned to take birth as the sons of the demon Hiranyakashipu. These sons of Hiranyakashipu were thereafter put into the womb of Mother Devaki, and as soon as they took their birth, Kansa killed them, one after another. My dear king of the demons, Mother Devaki is very anxious to see these 6 dead sons again, and she is very much aggrieved on account of their early death at the hand of Kansa. I know that all of them are living with you. I have decided to take them with me to pacify my mother, Devaki. After seeing my mother, all 6 of these conditioned souls will be liberated, and thus, in great pleasure, they will be transferred to their original planet. The names of these 6 conditioned souls are as follows: Smara, Udgitha, Parishvanga, Patanga, Kshudrabhrit, and Grini. They will be reinstated in their former position as demigods.
After thus informing the king of the demons, Krishna stopped speaking, and Bali Maharaj understood the Lord's purpose. He duly worshipped the Lord, and thereafter Lord Krishna and Lord Balram took away the 6 conditioned souls and returned to the city of Dwarka, where Lord Krishna presented them as little babies before his mother Devaki. Mother Devaki was overwhelmed with joy and was so ecstatic in motherly feeling that milk immediately began to flow from her breasts, and she fed the babies with great satisfaction. She took them on her lap again and again, smelling their heads and thinking, "I have gotten my lost children back." For the time being, she was overpowered by the energy of Vishnu, and in great motherly affection, she enjoyed the company of her lost children.
The milk from the breast of Devaki was transcendental nectar because the same milk had been sucked by Lord Krishna. As such, the babies who sucked the breast of Devaki-ji, which had touched the body of Lord Krishna, immediately became self-realized persons. The babies therefore began to offer their obeisances unto Lord Krishna, Balram, their father Vasudev, and their mother Devaki. After this, they were immediately transferred to their respective heavenly planets. After they departed, Devaki was stunned with wonder that her dead children had come back and had again been transferred to their respective planets. She could adjust the events only by thinking that Lord Krishna can perform anything wonderful in his pastimes because his potencies are all inconceivable. Without accepting the inconceivable, unlimited potencies of the Lord, one cannot understand that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Soul. By his unlimited potencies, he performs unlimited pastimes, and no one can describe them in full, nor can anyone know them all. Sudha Goswami, speaking Srimad Bhagavatam before the sages of Naimisharanya, headed by Shamanaka Rishi, gave his verdict in this connection as follows.
Great sages, please understand that the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna are all eternal. They are not ordinary narrations of historical incidents. Such narrations are identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Anyone, therefore, who hears such narrations of the Lord's pastimes is immediately freed from the contamination of material existence. And those who are pure devotees enjoy these narrations as nectar entering into their ears. Such narrations were spoken by Sukadeva Goswami, the exalted son of Vyasadeva, and anyone who hears them as well as anyone who repeats them for the hearing of others becomes Krishna consciousness, and only the Krishna conscious persons are eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 85th chapter of Krishna, spiritual instruction for Vasudeva, and the return of the 6 dead sons of Devaki by Lord Krishna.
Chapter 86. The kidnapping of Subhadra and Lord Krishna's visiting Shrutadev and Bahulashva. After hearing of the incidents described in the last chapter, King Parikshit became more inquisitive to hear about Krishna and his pastimes. And thus he inquired from Shukadev Goswami how his grandmother Subhadra was kidnapped by his grandfather Arjuna at the instigation of Lord Krishna. King Parikshit was very eager to learn how his grandfather kidnapped and married his grandmother.
Thus, Shukadev Goswami began to narrate the story as follows. Once upon a time, King Parikshit's grandfather Arjuna, the great hero, was visiting several holy places of pilgrimage, and while thus travelling all over, he happened to come to Prabhasha Kshetra. In Prabhasha Kshetra, he heard the news that Lord Balaram was negotiating the marriage of Subhadra, the daughter of Arjuna's maternal uncle Vasudev. Although her father Vasudev and her brother Krishna were not in agreement with him, Balaram was in favor of marrying Subhadra to Duryodhana. Arjuna, however, desired to gain Subhadra's hand himself. As he thought of Subhadra and her beauty, Arjuna became more and more captivated with the idea of marrying her, and with a plan in mind, he dressed himself like a Vaishnava sannyasi, carrying a tridanda in his hand.
Thank you. The Mayavadi sannyasis take one danda or one rod, whereas the Vaishnava sannyasis take 3 dandas or 3 rods. The 3 rods or tridanda indicate that a Vaishnava sannyasi vows to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his body, mind, and words. The system of tridanda sannyas has been in existence for a long time, and the Vaishnava sannyasis are called Tridandis, or sometimes Tridandi Swamis or Tridandi Goswamis. Sannyasis are generally meant to travel all over the country for preaching work, but during the 4 months of the rainy seasons in India, from July through October, they do not travel, but they shall take shelter in one place and remains there without moving. This non-movement of the sannyasis is called Chaturmasya Vrat. When a sannyasi stays in one place for these 4 months, the local inhabitants of that place take advantage of his presence to become spiritually advanced.
Arjuna, in the dress of a Tridandi sannyasi, remained in the city of Dwarka for the 4 months of the rainy season, revisiting a plan whereby he could get Subhadra as his wife. None of the inhabitants of Dwarka, including Lord Balaram, could recognize the sannyasi to be Arjuna. Therefore, all of them offered their respects and obeisances to the sannyasi without knowing the actual situation. One day, Lord Balaram invited this particular sannyasi to lunch at his home. Balramji very respectfully offered him all kinds of palatable dishes, and the so-called sannyasi was eating sumptuously. While eating at the home of Balramji, Arjuna was simply looking at beautiful Subhadra, who was very enchanting to great heroes and kings. Out of love for her, Arjuna's eyes brightened and he looked at her with glittering eyes. Arjuna decided that somehow or other he would achieve Subhadra as his wife, and his mind became agitated on account of this strong desire.
Arjuna, the grandfather of Maharaj Parikshit, was himself extraordinarily beautiful, and his bodily structures were very attractive to Subhadra, who decided within her mind that she would accept only Arjuna as a husband. As a simple girl, she was smiling with great pleasure looking at Arjuna. Thus, Arjuna also became more and more attracted by her. In this way, Subhadra dedicated herself to Arjuna, and he resolved to marry her by any means. He then became absorbed 24 hours a day in thought of how he could get Subhadra as his wife. He was afflicted with the thought of getting Subhadra's and had not a moment peace of mind. Once upon a time, Subhadra, seated on a chariot, came out of the palace fort to see the gods in the temple. Arjuna took this opportunity and, with the permission of Vasudeva and Devaki, he kidnapped her. After getting on Subhadra's chariot, he prepared himself for a fight. Taking up his bow and holding off with his arrows, the soldiers ordered to check him. Arjuna took Subhadra away. While Subhadra was thus being kidnapped by Arjuna, her relatives and family members began to cry, but still he took her, just as a lion takes his prey and departs. When it was disclosed to Lord Balarama that she, so-called sannyasi, was Arjuna, that the so-called sannyasi was Arjuna, who had planned such a device simply to take away Subhadra, and that he had actually taken her, he became very angry, just as the waves of the ocean become agitated on a full moon day. Lord Balarama became greatly disturbed.
Lord Krishna was in favor of Arjuna. Therefore, along with other members of the family, he tried to pacify Balarama by falling at his feet and begging him to pardon Arjuna. Krishna convinced Lord Balarama that Subhadra was attached to Arjuna, and thus Balarama became pleased to know that she wanted Arjuna as her husband. The matter was settled, and to please the newly married couple of Lord Balarama, Lord Balarama arranged to send a dowry consisting of an abundance of riches, including elephants, chariots, horses, men servants, and maid servants. Maharaja Parikshit was very eager to hear more about Krishna, and so, after finishing the narration of Arjuna's kidnapping Sukadeva Goswami began to narrate another story as follows.
There was a householder Brahmana in the city of Mithila, the capital of the kingdom of Videha. This Brahmana, whose name was Shrutadev, was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. Because he was fully Krishna conscious and always engaged in the service of the Lord, he was completely peaceful in mind and detached from all material attraction. He was very learned and had no desire other than to be fully situated in Krishna consciousness. Although in the order of householder life, he never took great pains to earn anything for his livelihood. He was satisfied with whatever he could achieve without much endeavor, and somehow or other he lived in that way. Every day he would get the necessities of life in just the quantity required and not more. That was his destiny. The Brahmana had no desire to get more than what he needed, and thus he was peacefully executing the regulative principles of a Brahmana's life, as enjoined in the revealed scriptures.
Fortunately, the king of Mithila was as good as a devotee as the Brahmana. The name of this famous king was Bahulashva. He was very well established in his reputation as a good king, and he was not at all ambitious to extend his kingdom for the sake of sense gratification. As such, both the Brahmana and the king Bahulashva remained pure devotees of Lord Krishna in Mithila. Since Lord Krishna was very merciful toward these two devotees, King Bahulashva and the Brahmana Shrutadeva, he one day asked his driver Daruka to take his chariot into the capital city of Mithila. Lord Krishna was accompanied by the great sages Narada, Vamadeva, Atri, Vyasadeva, Parshuram, Asita, Aruni, Shukadeva, Brihaspati, Kanva, Maitreya, Chavana, and others. Lord Krishna and the sages passed through many villages and towns, and everywhere the citizens would receive them with great respect and offer them articles in worship. To the citizens who came to see the Lord and all the assembled sages, it seemed as though the sun were present along with his various satellite planets. In that journey, Lord Krishna and the sages passed through the kingdoms of Anartha, Dhanva, Kurujangala, Kanka, Matsya, Panchala, Kunti, Madhu, Kekaya, Kaushala, and Arna. And thus all the citizens of these places, both men and women, could see Lord Krishna face to face. In this way they enjoyed celestial happiness with open hearts full of love and affection for the Lord. And when they saw the face of the Lord, it seemed to them that they were drinking nectar through their eyes. When they saw Krishna, all the ignorant misconceptions of their lives dissipated. When the Lord passed through the various countries and the people came to visit him simply by glancing over them, the Lord would bestow all good fortune upon them and liberate them from all kinds of ignorance. In some places, the demigods would join with the human beings, and their glorification of the Lord would cleanse all directions of all inauspicious things. In this way, Lord Krishna gradually reached the kingdom of Videha.
When the citizens received the news of the Lord's arrival, they all felt unlimited happiness and came to welcome him, taking gifts in their hands to offer. As soon as they saw Lord Krishna, their hearts immediately blossomed in transcendental bliss, just like lotus flowers upon the rising of the sun. Previously, they had simply heard the names of the great sages, but had never seen them. Now, by the mercy of Lord Krishna, they had the opportunity of seeing both the great sages and the Lord himself. King Bahulashva and the Brahmana Shrutadeva, knowing well that the Lord had come there just to grace them with favor, immediately fell at the Lord's lotus feet and offered their respects. With folded hands, the king and the Brahmana each simultaneously invited Lord Krishna and all the sages to his home. In order to please both of them, Lord Krishna expanded himself into two and went to the houses of each one of them. Yet neither the king nor the Brahmana could understand that the Lord had gone to the house of the other. Both thought that the Lord had gone only to his own house, that he and his companions were present in both houses, although both the Brahmana and the king thought he was present in one house only, is another opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This opulence is described in the revealed scriptures as Vaibhav Prakash. When Lord Krishna married 16,000 wives, he expanded himself into 16,000 forms, each one of them as powerful as he himself. Similarly, in Vrindavan, when Brahma stole Krishna's calves and cowherd boys, Krishna expanded himself into many new calves and boys.
Bahulashva, the king of Videha, was very intelligent and was a perfect gentleman. He was astonished that so many great sages, along with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, were personally present in his home. He knew perfectly well that conditioned souls engaged in worldly affairs cannot be 100% pure, whereas the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pure devotees are always transcendental to worldly contamination. Therefore, when he found that the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna and all the great sages were at his home, he was astonished and he began to thank Lord Krishna for his causeless mercy.
Feeling, feeling very much obliged and wanting to receive his guest to the best of his ability, he called for nice chairs and cushions, and Lord Krishna, along with all the sages, sat down very comfortably. At that time, King Bahulashwa's mind was very restless, not because of any problems, but because of great ecstasy of love and devotion. His heart was filled with love and affection for the Lord and his associates, and his eyes were filled with tears of ecstasy. He washed the feet of his divine guest, and afterwards he and his family members sprinkled the water on their own heads. After this, he offered the guest nice flower garlands, sandalwood pearl, incense, new garments, ornaments, lamps, cows, and bulls in a manner just befitting his royal position. He worshipped each one of them in this way. When all had been fed sumptuously and were sitting very comfortably, Bahulashva came before Lord Krishna and caught his lotus feet. He placed them on his lap and, while massaging the feet with his hands, began to speak about the glories of the Lord in a sweet voice.
My dear Lord, you are the super soul of all living entities, and as the witness within the heart, you are cognizant of everyone's activities. Thus, we are duly bound to always think of your lotus feet so that we can remain in a secure position and not deviate from your eternal service. As a result of our continuous remembrance of your lotus feet, you have kindly visited my place personally to favor me with your causeless mercy. We have heard, my dear Lord, that by your various statements you confirm your pure devotees to be more dear to you than Lord Balarama or your constant servitor, the goddess of fortune. Your devotees are dearer to you than your first son, Lord Brahma, and I am sure that you have so kindly visited my place in order to prove your divine statement. I cannot imagine how people can be godless and demoniac even after knowing of your causeless mercy and affection for your devotees who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness. How can people who know of these things forget your lotus feet?
My dear Lord, it is known to us that you are so kind and liberal that when a person leaves everything just to engage in Krishna consciousness, you sometimes give yourself in exchange for that unalloyed service. You have appeared in the Yadu dynasty to fulfill your mission of reclaiming all conditioned souls, rotting in the sinful activities of material existence. And this appearance is already famous all over the world. My dear Lord, you are the ocean of unlimited mercy, love, and affection. Your transcendental form is full of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. You can attract everyone's heart by your beautiful form as Shama Sundara Krishna. Your knowledge is unlimited, and to teach all people how to execute devotional service, you have sent your incarnation, Narayan, who is engaged in severe austerities and penances at Badari Narayan. Kindly therefore accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. My dear Lord, I beg to request you and your companions, the great sages and brahmanas, to remain at my place, at least for a few days, so that this family of the famous King Nimi may be sanctified by the dust of your lotus feet. Lord Krishna could not refuse the request of his devotee, and thus he remained there for a few days with the sages to sanctify the city of Mithila and all its citizens.
Meanwhile, the Brahmana Shrutadeva, simultaneously receiving Lord Krishna and his associates at his home, was transcendently overwhelmed with joy. After offering his guests nice sitting places, the Brahmana began to dance, waving around his wrap. Shrutadeva, being not at all rich, offered only mattresses, wooden planks, straw carpets, and so on to his distinguished guests. Lord Krishna and the sages, but he welcomed them to the best of his ability. He spoke very highly of the Lord and the sages, and he and his wife washed the feet of each one of them. After this, he took the water and sprinkled it over all the members of his family. And although the Brahmana appeared very poor, he was at that time most fortunate. While Shrutadeva was welcoming Lord Krishna and his associates, he simply forgot himself in transcendental joy. After welcoming the Lord and his companions according to his ability, he brought fruits, incense, scented water, scented clay, tulsi leaves, kusha straw, and lotus flowers. They were not costly items and could be secured very easily, but because they were offered with devotional love, Lord Krishna and his associates accepted them gladly. The Brahmana's wife cooked simple foods like rice and dal, and Lord Krishna and his followers were very much pleased to accept them because they were offered in devotional love. When Lord Krishna and his associates were fed in this way, the Brahmana Shrutadeva was thinking thus: I have fallen into the deep dark well of householder life and am the most unfortunate person. How has it become possible that Lord Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his associates, the great sages, whose very presence makes a place as sanctified as a pilgrimage site, have agreed to come to my place? While the Brahmana was thinking in this way, the guests finished their lunch and sat back very comfortably. At that time, the Brahmana Shrutadeva and his wife, children, and other relatives appeared there to render service to the distinguished guests. While touching the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, the Brahmana began to speak.
My dear Lord, he said, you are the Supreme Person, Purushottama, transcendentally situated beyond the manifested and unmanifested material creation. The activities of this material world and of the conditioned souls have nothing to do with your position. We can appreciate that not only today have you given me your audience, but you are the associating with all the living entities as Paramatma since the beginning of creation. This statement by the Brahmana is very instructive. It is a fact that the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead in his Paramatma feature, enters the creation of this material world as Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and Kshirodakshai Vishnu, and in a very friendly attitude, the Lord sits along with the conditioned souls in the body. Therefore, every living entity has the Lord with him from the very beginning, but due to his mistaken consciousness of life, the living entity cannot understand this. When this consciousness, however, is changed into Krishna consciousness, he can immediately understand how Krishna is trying to assist the conditioned souls to get out of the material entanglement.
Shutadev continued, My dear Lord, you have entered this material world as if sleeping. A conditioned soul, while sleeping, creates false or temporary worlds in his mind. He becomes busy in many illusory activities, sometimes becoming a king, sometimes being murdered, or sometimes going to an unknown city. And all these are simply temporary affairs. Similarly, your lordship apparently also in a sleeping condition enters this material world to create a temporary manifestation, not for your personal necessities, but for the conditioned soul who wants to imitate your lordship as enjoyer. The conditioned soul's enjoyment in the material world is temporary and illusory, and yet the conditioned soul is by himself unable to create such a temporary situation for his illusory enjoyment. To fulfill his desires, although they are temporary and illusory, you enter this temporary manifestation to help him. Thus, from the beginning of the conditioned soul's entering into the material world, you are his constant companion. When, therefore, the conditioned soul comes in contact with a pure devotee and takes to devotional service, beginning with the process of hearing your transcendental pastimes, glorifying your transcendental activities, worshipping your eternal form in the temple, offering prayers to you, and engaging in discussion to understand your transcendental position, he gradually becomes freed from the contamination of material existence. And as his heart becomes cleansed of all material dust, you gradually become visible there. Although you are constantly with the conditioned soul, only when he becomes purified by devotional service do you become revealed to him. Others who are bewildered by fruitive activities, either by Vedic injunction or by customary dealings, and who do not take to devotional service are captivated by the external happiness of the bodily concept of life. You are not revealed to such persons, rather, you remain far, far away from them. But for one who engages in your devotional service and purifies his heart by constant chanting of your holy name, you are very easily understood as his eternal constant companion.
It is said that your lordship, sitting in the heart of a devotee, gives him direction by which he can very quickly come back home, back to you. This direct dictation by you reveals your existence within the heart of the devotee. Only a devotee can immediately appreciate your existence within his heart, whereas for a person who has only a bodily concept of life and is engaged in sense gratification, you always remain covered by the curtain of Yoga Maya. Such a person cannot realize that you are very near, sitting within his heart. For a non devotee, you are appreciated only as ultimate death. The difference is like the difference between a cat carrying its kitten in its mouth and carrying a rat in its mouth. In the mouth of the cat, the rat feels its death, whereas the kitten in the mouth of the cat feels motherly affection. Similarly, you are present to everyone, but the non-devotee feels you as ultimate cruel death, whereas for a devotee, you are the supreme instructor and philosopher. The atheist, therefore, understands the presence of God as death, but the devotee understands the presence of God always within his heart, takes dictation from you, and lives transcendentally, unaffected by the contamination of the material world.
You are the supreme controller and superintendent of the material nature's activities. The atheistic class of men simply observe the activities of material nature but cannot find you as the original background. A devotee, however, can immediately see your hand in every movement of the material nature. The curtain of Yogamaya cannot cover the eyes of the devotee of your lordship, but it can cover the eyes of the non devotee. The non devotee is unable to see you face to face, just as a person whose eyes are blocked by the covering of a cloud cannot see the sun. Although persons flying above the cloud can see the sunshine brilliantly as it is, my dear Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, my dear self-effulgent Lord, I am your eternal servitor. Therefore, kindly order me. What can I do for you? The conditional soul feels the pangs of material contamination as the threefold miseries as long as you are not visible to him. And as soon as you are visible by development of Krishna consciousness, all miseries of material existence are simultaneously vanquished.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is naturally very much affectionately inclined to his devotees. When he heard Shrutadeva's prayers of pure devotion, he was very much pleased and immediately caught his hands and addressed him thus: My dear Shrutadev, all these great sages, brahmanas, and saintly persons have been very kind to you by personally coming here to see you. You should consider this opportunity to be a great fortune for you. They are so kind that they are traveling with me, and wherever they go, they immediately make the whole atmosphere as pure as transcendence, simply by the touch of the dust of their feet. People are accustomed to go to temples of God. They also visit holy places of pilgrimage, and after prolonged association with such activities for many days, by touch and by worship, they gradually become purified. But the influence of great sages and saintly persons is so great that by seeing them, one immediately becomes completely purified.
Moreover, the very purifying potency of pilgrimages or worship of different demigods is also achieved by the grace of saintly persons. A pilgrimage site becomes a holy place because of the presence of the saintly persons. My dear Shrutadev, when a person is born as a Brahmana, he immediately becomes the best of all human beings. And if such a Brahmana, remaining self satisfied, practices austerities, studies the Vedas, and engages in my devotional service, as is the duty of the Brahmana, or in other words, if a Brahmana becomes a Vaishnava, how wonderful is his greatness! My feature of four-handed Narayana is not so pleasing or dear to me as is a Brahmana Vaishnava. Brahmana means one well conversant with Vedic knowledge. A Brahmana is the insignia of perfect knowledge, and I am the full-fledged manifestation of all gods. Less intelligent men do not understand me, nor do they understand the influence of the Brahmana Vaishnava. They are influenced by the three modes of material nature and thus dare to criticize me and my pure devotees. A Brahmana Vaishnava or a devotee already on the Brahminical platform can realize me within his heart, and therefore he definitely concludes that the whole cosmic manifestation and its different features are effects of different energies of the Lord. Thus, he has a clear conception of the whole material nature and the total material energy, and in every action, such a devotee sees me only and nothing else.
My dear Shrutadev, you may therefore accept all these great saintly persons, Brahmanas and sages, as my bona fide representatives. By worshipping them faithfully, you will be worshipping me more diligently. I consider worship of my devotees to be better than direct worship of me. If someone attempts to worship me directly without worshipping my devotees, I do not accept such worship, even though it may be presented with great opulence. In this way, both the Brahmana Shrutadev and the king of Mithila, under the direction of the Lord, worshipped both Krishna and his followers, the great sages and saintly Brahmanas, on an equal level of spiritual importance. Both Brahmana and king ultimately achieved the supreme goal of being transferred to the spiritual world. The devotee does not know anyone except Lord Krishna, and Krishna is most affectionate to his devotees. Lord Krishna remained in Mithila both at the house of the Brahmana Shrutadev and at the palace of King Bahulashva. And after favoring them lavishly by his transcendental instructions, he went back to his capital city, Dwaraka.
The instruction we receive from this incident is that King Bahulashva and Shrutadev, the Brahmana, were accepted by the Lord on the same level because both were pure devotees. This is the real qualification for being recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because it has become the fashion of this age to be falsely proud of having taken birth in the family of a Kshatriya or a Brahmana, we see persons without any qualification other than birth claiming to be a Brahmana or Kshatriya or Vaishya. But as stated in the scriptures, Kalo Shudra Sambhava. In this age of Kali, everyone is born a Shudra. This is because there is no performance of the purificatory processes known as samskaras, which begin from the time of the mother's pregnancy and continue up to the point of the individual's death. No one can be classified as a member of a particular caste, especially of a higher caste, Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya, simply by birthright. If one is not purified by the process of the seed-giving ceremony or Garbhadana Samskara, he is immediately classified among the Shudras, because only the Shudras do not undergo this purificatory process. Sex life without the purificatory process of Krishna consciousness is merely the seed-giving process of the Shudras or the animals. Krishna consciousness is therefore the best process of purification. By this process, everyone can come to the platform of a Vaishnava, which include having all the qualifications of a Brahmana. The Vaishnavas are trained to become freed from the 4 kinds of sinful activities: illicit sex, indulgence in intoxicants, gambling, and eating animal foods. One cannot be on the Brahminical platform without having these preliminary qualifications. And without becoming a qualified Brahmana, one cannot become a pure devotee. Thus ends the Bhakti-Vedanta purport of the 86th chapter of Krishna, the kidnapping of Subhadra and Lord Krishna's visiting Shrutadev and Bahulashva. Hari Bol! So this concludes 1 hour of our reading Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada, for allowing us every Sunday to come here and read Krishna book to you for your pleasure. Now let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. And to each other, वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Jai Krishna book reading. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.